Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. I have another channel on astrology and a Facebook page on which I write prophetic writings. You find that in the description box below, and I invite you to read those prophetic writings which I wrote. They provide totally different information than the one that I am sharing here in the videos. The usual caveat, there are individuals who are using my identity, are impersonating me, and are conducting illegal, fraudulous activity in my name to steal from me, to do harm to me, and to do harm onto others and to steal from others. So I invite you to be discerning and not to engage with individuals in the comment section. But I encourage you to write, if you have any questions, to write comments and ask the questions that you want to be answered, because I answer all questions regardless who posts them. Yeah. Okay. Now, in the current video, God has guided me to talk about. I don't know why. I guess I know why. God keeps asking me to give examples from my own experience. I personally prefer to share information received from God. This is what I love to do and I like to do. However, God keeps guiding me to share different information from my own personal experience, which I'm not sure applies to everyone, but God seems to think that it is inspirational to others. So if it is so, then I'm happy to share it. Otherwise, I said once before in another video, I'm a very private person and I don't like to talk about myself. And I do this only because God is guiding me to do so. And this is also part of the message that I'm sharing in this video. God has guided me to speak about one particular aspect, uh, the way I present myself to the world in general throughout my life. And my view is that probably the most beneficial for you to understand is the following message, namely that throughout my life, without necessarily knowing on conscious level that I will have to encounter the spiritual fighting and so on, one of the aspects that I cared a lot about was privacy, as I just said. Privacy, and I did not like to share about myself with others in general, and I did not like so much for others to know about me. I think maybe this comes from the fact that I started my career working at a very early age. I was 18 when I started to work, and I worked throughout my studies. So I did in parallel work and studies. And at very early age, as I said before, in my career, I was tasked and assigned to do big projects, to sort of have managerial role in conducting teams, big teams of individuals who many of them were older than me. Yeah, some of them much older than me, and it was not that easy. I must say, it was not that easy because, of course, they will be always very skeptical of young people. There's a tendency always to not follow instructions, or to just keep giving different opinions. And sometimes, okay, it's fine. We can have a debate, brainstorming. I always had these brainstorming sessions in my projects with my teams. But when I decide on a strategy, there must be also efficiency. If all the time you keep doing brainstorming, and everybody keeps coming to you with either saying, for example, no, this is not possible to be done. But if I say so, you will do it. Because many times I proved in my career that it's just that you don't know how to do it. It doesn't mean it can be done. Or more exactly, you don't want to put the effort in just because you got used with a comfortable way. I am not the comfortable way. I am a person who believes deeply in her projects, invests herself in the projects, and will do everything possible for those projects to reach the highest potential, basically. So I will come with innovative ways. I will change different strategies many times if I find a better way to do it. And for efficiency purposes, it's important to actually, once a strategy is established and the task is being given, to follow instructions. Yeah. And it's difficult sometimes to actually impose yourself, particularly when there are older individuals in your group. At the time when I got hired in MFA, you could count on the fingers of your two hands how many young people were in MFA. Most of them were old people. So because of this, I had this start in my career, which made me prefer to have privacy, not to behave too friendly, because then they would basically feel like focusing more on my age and the age difference than on the fact that, at the end of the day, I might be younger than you, but I am leading the team. So you follow what I say, because I'm the one assuming the responsibility for this project. Yeah. I will always defend my people in my team, and I will always fight for them. And I will never ask people in my team, for example, to work long hours or to make different kind of efforts or sacrifices without me doing exactly the same. So if my team had to work long hours, I would stay with them at the end and I would work with them. So I considered myself to be fair. Yeah. But also I know for a fact that I was very demanding. Because I would set very high standards for my projects, and for this reason I could not afford negative people who constantly, in order for them to have a comfortable life, would refuse to accomplish tasks, or would completely constantly say, oh, this is not possible. This kind of negative talk I don't like. And I will not accept that, because it's also an issue of mobilizing people. So once I mobilize the entire team, you don't come to the staff meeting and you start saying this is not possible, this is not possible, this is not possible. Then you just basically demobilize everybody. So anyhow, because of these reasons, because of being in these positions of leading teams, I felt the need, and I learned this the hard way, namely that you have to be distant to some extent, because otherwise individuals tend to confuse the personal relation with the institutional relation. Normally, I should be able to be friendly with you, but still, when I tell you to do something, you fucking do it. And you do it by the time I tell you to finish it. Now, for this reason, probably, I developed this habit of being a private person, not sharing very much, and being very selective with the people that are involved in my project or are close to me. But otherwise, everybody who worked with me, if they are honest, will say that not only I helped them when they asked for help, but I also offered myself to help them when I saw that they have a problem or I noticed that there is something wrong with them, you know. Anyhow, moving on. This is a fact, though, that I'm a private person. And for this reason, one of the advantages that I always had in in life in general, and later on also when the spiritual fighting started consciously, was the fact that usually people didn't know me. Unfortunately, many of them issued opinions about me, but they never knew me. They were never close in my circle to be entitled to issue opinions about me. Or if they were in my circle and they should have known me, those who gossiped about me issued fake information and opinions in order to appease others, to whatever. Yeah, so for this reason, this is very beneficial in because you basically what you do. I spoke many times in my videos about surprise attack that they use when they launch spiritual attacks at you in order to destabilize you and to scare you, to intimidate you, to bully you, to so on and so forth. By being a private person and selective person, this is exactly the advantage you gain, namely that you can surprise them at any time. I will give you one, and this is very important. I will tell you this. This was, for example, my way of opening negotiations in my career, professional negotiations on the files that I was handling. I would always start some sort of meeting or collaboration in a certain group, particularly those that had periodical consultations and so on, in one way, in such a way so I will get to the surprise element over the audience, you know. Also for the same reason, because I was a woman and I worked in military issues for the last more than I think 17 years. So I needed to draw attention and to be taken seriously and to draw clear boundaries, professional and personal, because mostly there were men involved in these fields. And on one hand, some of them would have been tempted to flirt with me, so not take me seriously professionally. Others were just misogynes, and they literally couldn't accept the idea that a woman would have a word to say in a matter, or would contradict them on a matter, even if you have the arguments, and so on. And for this reason, it was part of my strategy that when we would come together in a group for a line of consultations on a certain topic, I will start in one way, and I will reveal myself as a surprise, something that usually nobody expected that would hear from me. So basically, I used the element of surprise a lot in my career as well, but it also served me well it became my way of being. It served me well when I started the spiritual fighting consciously. And I think this is very important. And it's been proven to me over and over and over again that it was a good thing for me. First of all, you keep your focus. First of all, you keep your focus. Second of all, you keep your efficiency, so you achieve whatever you establish for yourself. And if we're talking about spiritual fighting, this was also important for me. And I'll tell you, because I started the conscious spiritual fighting when the surprise attacks, or even a little bit earlier than that, a few months earlier. And it happened while I was at my home. I was not going to work. I was basically taking time off for a longer time, and I was already in the new location outside of the city, on the outskirts of the city, in a village, sort of say, and basically nobody knew me here. I had no contact besides the polite good morning and good afternoon. I had no contact and no relation with nobody around me, no neighbors, nobody. Um, for because I of course at home, even more so, I wanted privacy because I would work until late and I wanted to just have time for myself. I was when I moved here, I intended to create a project and a business a practice in spirituality for myself, and I was planning also to leave the MFA as soon as that practice would have established itself as a good income source for me. So I was focused on what plans I had and how to settle everything. For this reason, I didn't really have contacts besides the individual who actually built the house and from whom I bought the house, because it was normal to interact with him. I was supposed to tell him what to do with the project. Otherwise, I did not engage with anyone around me. Also, because I was at home, I was not at the office, right? I was very different than usually people know me at the office. And I was, of course, very laid back and relaxed, enjoying my life with Lucky in my new courtyard. And because I wanted to also enjoy myself, but also keep a distance from individuals around me, because I didn't want to actually create connections and so on. Also, for the same reason, I don't believe that it's beneficial to just be, in so many relations, be them even friendly relations. They also waste time. So unless you actually do have a common ground, I don't see the purpose of being in friendly relations with everyone. You can be in polite relations and respectful relations, but you don't need to be friends with everyone. This is very important for everybody to understand. You don't need to be friends with everyone. And many times I encounter this, that God is showing to me to talk about this. Many times I encountered this situation whereby different individuals would say to me, "Why are you so cold to this or this person?" And I was like, "I'm not cold. I'm just normal. I don't need to be socializing and making it my obligation to entertain anyone. If we don't have to be friends. We are colleagues at the office, but we don't have to be friends. The same, we are neighbors. I don't have to be friends with my neighbors. We have to respect each other and we have to be polite with each other, but I want peace and quiet. I don't need, for example, I have seen this in my childhood, this kind of neighbors who actually, like it or not, they will knock on your door and they will enter your house without even asking if you are willing to have guests. Maybe you're busy, maybe you have other things to do. And I didn't like that, because of course you must be polite with them. You cannot tell them get out, and because they are neighbors and you don't want to have bad relations with your neighbor. But then again, I don't feel like they would be harassing me constantly just because they have nothing to do and they want to be entertained. It's normal to politely ask and establish a time and a day when to meet, not to go over to somebody's house uninvited and to force yourself there. So I was very cautious. That's one thing. I saw that in my childhood, actually, and I didn't like this kind of approach. And second of all, throughout my life, I worked very long hours. I had projects, and the timelines were so, the deadlines were so tight that I had to work like 24 hours a day. I had situations in which I worked 24 hours a day for a week, and I would sleep only 2 hours per week. I also had to study when I would get home, particularly at the time when I was a student as well. So I always had a very busy life. Besides my work and my studies, most of the times I would also have an additional project which I would be involved in. So I was always very busy, and I would work very much also. So I was very tired when I would get home. So most of the times I don't feel like anybody bothering me. It's my private space, and I want actually to relax and just transmute the darkness that I picked up through exhaustion and a lot of work and a lot of managing situations and people and so on. So for this reason, I created this habit of not having close friendships among my neighbors, always throughout my life, everywhere. And also many times I've been abroad, assigned abroad for years. So I wouldn't even know who my neighbors are in my home back in Romania. Anyhow, the point is that here in this location when I came, I mostly enjoyed myself with Lucky in my courtyard. I did not engage with many people. And if I would engage, I would just be having just polite conversations, and that was it. That was it. There was only one woman with whom I was a little bit closer because she was selling, she was basically selling stuff at a store nearby. So that was the only person that I got close with. And actually, I learned to regret that later on. But anyhow, the point is when they started the spiritual attacks at me, God has shown this to me, and I laughed about it when God showed me this to me. God showed me that they thought that I am such a silly, stupid, young person. Although I'm not that young, but anyhow, this is how they viewed me, you know, as a very naive, very young, stupid, silly person who is playing with a dog, and I was laughing about it because this is very far from who I am, you know. But if I feel like it's necessary, I can be very bitchy. If that's necessary, again, it's not that I cannot manage to be in a fight, in a conflict, or in a conflictual situation or a relation or something. I can, and I will take you down in a second. Again, for a very long period of time, I was the only woman in the room throughout my postgraduate studies, but also throughout my work in security studies. So I was the only woman in the room, and I knew how to control the room, though. And we are talking about individuals who have been used with use of power, not in physical sense only, but also in imposing themselves. And I never accepted that I would be to be bullied in my dialogue, cooperation, or consultation or negotiations. So I know this about myself, and actually, you can find many individuals who have met me in office, particularly at interinstitutional negotiations and consultations, when many times the positions of my institution and the position of other institutions was in conflict. I was actually always praised by colleagues and by different boss that I had at different time for this ability to actually put everyone in their place and to actually succeed to get my point across, not their point, you know. So actually you can find many of these individuals who have met me in those circumstances who are actually afraid. Some of them were afraid of me, literally. I'm not kidding. I mean, I had a boss once in 2005, 2006, I think, up to 2007, that there was a NATO exercise simulation about using nuclear weapons. and I was handling the file, so I participated on behalf of my institution. And of course, it was mostly military institutions taking part, and was mostly men. It was me and one other woman in the room, and there was almost 40 men present. And of course, I went. I had some conflict with the MOD guy and with another guy because they wanted. We were arguing about decision making. Don't imagine I had conflicts personally. No, it was on professional matters because they wanted to launch the attack, and I said no, we don't launch the attack. There are 3 intermediary steps that we take before the attack is launched. Anyhow, it really doesn't matter to you. The point is that I had some arguments with them. And basically, at the end of the day, they had to accept my view. And at the end, when the negotiations were ended, before the papers were signed, of course, your boss was supposed to come. So it was all of us who negotiated in the room, plus it had to come the boss for everyone. Everyone's boss was supposed to be there in a separate room. They will sign the papers, and my boss told me at the time, I remember this was very funny from all the experiences. He came to me at the break from their room to our room, and he said, what did you do here? What happened here? What happened in these negotiations? And they said, well, I gave you full report every day what happens here. What do you mean? And he says, well, when I entered the room, everybody looked at me and they said, are you the boss of Mrs. Dana? And they were everybody looking at me very tense. And I said, yes, I am. And he said, then everybody stood aside and they made room for me. And they said, please, go this way and sit here. And he said, I don't understand why they behaved with me like this. They were behaving basically with a lot of respect. This boss at that time was much younger than me, and he only had like 1 year in MFA. He had no experience. He was very young. And he said, why they were behaving this way? Why are they so afraid of you? When they heard that I'm your boss, they all moved aside and they made room for me to cross the room, and they showed me where to sit in it was a honorary chair, And I said, well, my dear, this is called respect. You're not used with it. You need to learn how to gain it on your own in the future, So this is funny experience to me because he was so terrified and he was so intimidated. He didn't know why. He said, yeah, but all these people, you see, they are generals and they have such high ranking. They said, yeah, so what if they're generals? What's the problem here? Yeah, of course. So this is what I mean. So I laughed when God showed me what they think about me here in this neighborhood at the time. It was very funny to me because I said, well, they don't know me, obviously. If I want to impose myself, I will. And I will take you down in a second if I decide so. And it doesn't have to be in a rude manner. It doesn't have to be in a forceful manner. I have a wide variety of strategies to achieve my goal. That they don't know me, of course they don't know this about me, because first of all, I'm not in no negotiation with any of them. None of them came to me to ask me about myself. Not that I would have been very willing to actually give them details, but in any case, they didn't even try to learn details about myself. And of course, I'm at home. Of course, I'm playing with the dog. What should I do at home? And whatever I'm doing seriously regarding my work, I'm doing it inside my house. They cannot see that, of course, But this served me well in my spiritual fighting. And this is the message basically that I am supposed to give you because they made a lot of mistakes in coming too forceful at me, thinking that they will bully me, that they will intimidate me. if they would have done the research properly, they would have known that they will not succeed to bully or intimidate me ever, ever, ever. Um, but of course, they didn't know this, so this was useful to me because they exposed themselves by doing this. Also, they didn't know about me that I can read people. I could always read people. I was always very intuitive, and I actually also individuals that work with me, they will always tell you that whatever I predicted for a behavior of an individual, for a project, for the success of a project, or whatever in general, it was always confirmed by reality. So not only that I'm not childish, but I'm also not that young as they viewed me. I don't know why they viewed me this way, because otherwise I'm 50 years old now. So when they started this, I was 40 something. Yeah, so I was not that young. Anyhow, the point is, and the message that God wants me to send is that the element of surprise is very important. This I knew, this I always practiced this in my career, as I explained, because I said this in a previous video, the type of bondage that you are breaking with them is bondage created in other lifetimes on your ancestors. For some of them, it took a full lifetime in order to find out who are these individuals who are doing harm on them, and to expose them and to take them to justice. For you, ideally, the more, okay, let's put it this way, the more secretive you are, the more surprised, the more you can surprise them, the shorter the time of your spiritual fighting will be. Why? Because they will expose themselves, not believing that you're not capable to understand what they do. They will expose themselves. They will take risks, and they will become more aggressive. By becoming more aggressive, they also expose who they are. And in many ways, I have this experience, namely that any kind of surprise element is to your advantage. It's to your advantage if you know how to use it, of course. You cannot overdo it, and you cannot play it wrong. I mean, you have to, how to say, evaluate what type of surprise you want to achieve. Make sure you achieve a surprise which is to your advantage and to your benefit, and not the other way around. Yeah. But this is a matter of strategy, and it's a matter of strategic approach, particularly when you are in spiritual fighting, because many times if you play stupid, you will get to learn much more. In other circumstances, for example, I would bluff a lot. For example, on specific topics, I would bluff that I know already some information, and then I will gain that information. That was very useful in my previous career, because you could gain information from other counterparts about topics about which you maybe didn't know that specific issue, but then you learn it because they will share it simply because they think you already know it, and you many times find out secrets this way, which you or maybe not expected to learn about. Anyhow, this was, for example, I gave this example in another video about that individual from Intel who kept harassing me and kept pushing me to draw me in some sort of libertinage type of relation or stuff like this. At that point, with that individual, I played this card in which I pretended to know some of the things which he was sharing with me, but I was doing that only to learn information. Actually, everything that he was telling to me about all this style of living and all of this crazy shit, it was totally foreign to me at that point in time. I only learned about it because he spoke about it. But I did play this card, namely that I know from the very beginning. I of course I got some hint by intuition and by guidance, divine guidance, and I took advantage of that at maximum. I got the hint and inspiration to actually confront him from the very beginning, namely saying that you have been sent to flirt with me. They have sent you, and it was just a hunch. It was just an intuition. It was, but from that point forward, I played the card like I knew it, you know. And the individual said, "Are you also undercover?" So basically, he confirmed this to me, and I never exposed to him that I'm not undercover. You know, I always said, I cannot share that with you, and you will never find out. So from this point forward, I basically learned whatever information I found relevant to all of this. Okay, so basically the message was regarding to a surprise element. The more discreet you are with your life, now I don't mean that you must be this kind of obsessed person. You can be discreet with your life without being obsessed of hiding and stuff like this. And the more you do this, the more people don't know about you, the easier will be for you in spiritual fighting to learn information, but also to surprise them. You know? And this is important. This is important because each and every single time you surprise them, then you get to be exposed. Yeah. Anyhow, I will stop this video now because it's already 37 minutes. The message was this basically, that the more that you preserve your privacy and you don't expose yourself too much, the less people know about you, and the better this is for you in spiritual fighting. Because in spiritual fighting, it's about psychological war. If they don't have the right psychological profile on you, they will shoot blank bullets, basically, and you will be able to identify who they are, and what's their strategy, and all of this, you know. So it will be beneficial for you that you gain advantage in learning information about them, and then you can adjust accordingly. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop this video now. I hope this information is helpful to you. God has guided me to speak about this, so I imagine that maybe some of you are just too open in sharing information about yourself. Oh yeah, God is showing to me. Some of you are sharing too much information on Facebook and other social media. God is literally showing this to me now, that you're sharing too much information on social media. No, on social media, no. I would only post articles from my line of work, many of them actually, articles which I would read. I would post them because I had many students who were friends with me on Facebook, and I would only make jokes. I would never share too much about, actually I would never share anything about my private life on Facebook or social media. I would only share just one, actually I don't even have my old account because I stopped from using it since 2017, my old account. But I used to share only silly things, nothing interesting, and nothing meaningful, and not much about me, and clearly nothing from my private life. That's a fact. Yeah. Okay, so I guess this is why God wanted me to talk about this. Okay, I'm gonna end this video now. Yeah, don't share anything about you. Just keep it secret. And even close friends, you don't need to share about your private life. You can have a lot of other things in common. You don't have to share about private life so much, unless it's somebody that you literally trust with your whole being. But in my experience, there's nobody that you should trust. There's nobody. Literally, I'm not kidding. There's nobody. Simply because they made sure that there will be nobody around you to trust, and that whoever is around you will inform them and will help them to work against you. Okay, I'm gonna stop here, and I'll see you in my next video.